Well, for more on the prolonged shutdown's growing impact, I'm joined now by Mary C. Curtis. She's a columnist with Roll Call and host of the podcast Equal Time. Hi there, Mary. Really good to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So much to talk about. I guess the biggest question, as we keep talking about day 27, the longest ever was 34 days. How much longer do you think this shutdown will last?
Well, I think that the American people are getting pretty frustrated with the shutdown. It has become a partisan part of partisan politics like everything else is in Washington, but people in both red and blue states are suffering. They're either furloughed, many of them, some have been laid off. President Trump, went to Asia. For a long time, Speaker Mike Johnson had the House out. They were at home. They weren't even working on the problem. And as the reporter said, compromise has become a dirty word. But we see these food benefits, which really affecting people. And with the holidays looming, that's going to be a big problem as well. So the head of the biggest federal union has urged both sides to make an agreement quickly.
You rightly state, Mary, that this has become such a partisan issue. Republicans, Democrats trading blame, but how do they actually break this deadlock?
Well, Democrats are saying they need to have some promises, not just promises, but policies on health care subsidies because so many Americans depend on them and their health care bills will rise, will double. And there's so little trust because even when promises have been made, President Trump has, after money has been allocated by Congress, has just said, well, we're not going to spend that money as it has been voted on. And already we see he's refused, the Republicans are not approving contingency money that would extend SNAP benefits, SNAP food benefits.
So what do you think is the tipping point? What actually has to happen for both sides to finally hammer out a deal?
Well, we do see that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, will be meeting with Senate Republicans at their Tuesday lunch, and they'll be talking about tariffs on the agenda, but you can be sure they'll be talking about the shutdown. And you do see some softening. Senator Rand Paul saying, come on, we need to get together in a room. I could talk to Senator Tim Kaine, the Democrat of Virginia. We should come up with something. So you can see that they are reacting to the frustration of the American people. Even Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene noted that her adult children are going to have their medical benefits rise. So you've seen some softening.
We talk about these health benefits, the food benefits all going away, and of course, people not getting paid. Are these effects temporary? Do things just kind of go back to normal once the shutdown ends, or are there longer-term consequences we have to be worried about here?
Well, I think there are longer-term consequences. The president has said that some people don't deserve to be paid, and some of the furloughs actually will be permanent layoffs. And then you see the air traffic controllers, which is a stressful job anyway. Many of them are calling in sick and having other jobs. They have to feed their families. So it's going to take a while before, even if they just said tomorrow we're going to sign the continuing resolution, it won't go back to normal. And people should note the continuing resolution would only take us through next month. And then we might have to go through these negotiations all over again. And as I said, the holidays are looming. People are trying to make plans for travel in the midst of all the delays and problems with air travel. And they're trying to get things together for their families when actually food and medical benefits are actually a lot more, would take priority over everything else. And I think the anger of the American people will also remain because they don't see people in Congress not getting paid. And you have some physical manifestations, like why is this ballroom going up in the White House? We have priorities that really, we don't think our representatives are representing us. And they're not worried about a paycheck, the representatives and the Congress people. And I think that contrast will linger.
You brought up this issue of back pay because under federal law, of course, federal workers, furloughed, are entitled to back pay once funds become available. But for the first time, the Trump administration is saying, well, maybe not. How do we read into this?
Well, these are laws, of course, and Trump was very much in favor of them in his first term. But we also see that he has been breaking norms and traditions with a lot of backing from the Republican Party. They don't really seem to push back at anything, even when he says he is going to pull back on some of this pay. And it would probably go up to the Supreme Court, many of these things, when the laws are broken. But the Supreme Court, with this conservative majority, has given him a lot of leeway and executive power. So I think that's another reason why Democrats and Republicans don't seem to trust one another, because even if there are promises that are made, there are no guarantees that they will be kept.